Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Accessible for all ages and all abilities.
Thank you, Jamie. Jane Moran, current chair, after Ken worked so hard to get us started and then we took off after that. Been on from the beginning. I'm not going to take too much time, but be it said that my interests as a runner and a little bit of cycling and an equestrian, it brings us, you can see we have a rich diversification here, so we welcome you. So having said that, let's move on. So we're going to open with, and I forgot, I would really like to recognize Dave Del Torio, our town engineer, and Matt Chase, our supportive engineer from VHB. So thank you guys for being here. And we've asked them to come tonight to continue our discussion on the overall map. And we're working on simplifying the route. When we first started off, we had with the Conway School Study, they helped us get started and we grew from there. And we have multiple trail systems that are hypothetical that we've slowly eliminated for a lot of different reasons. And that is what we're working on now. We completed the north section, which is from Hopkinton State Park down to East Main Street at our last meeting. Tonight's meeting, we're going to spend a few minutes discussing our center section from East Main Street all the way up to the Loop Road, correct? And that's what this is, and that's what you see up there. So if we come out of from Legacy Farms and we're traveling south, we go through the area of the 26.2 Marathon Museum where that site is going to be, and we end up on East Main Street.
That's right here on the screen. It's blue dot.
Okay, so Matt, take it away.
So there's no site plan yet for the International Marathon Center, but I think the trail would come in somewhere right here in the backside and
Yes.
then it would work its way onto East Main Street here. So it may not be the blue dot coming through like this, but until that plan is further developed, I think these are just schematics,
Correct.
like Jane said. And a lot of this feeds off of the Conway School study. And my role from VHB is to assist the committee, kind of drill down to each segment and identify, I guess, impacts and permitting and costs and things like that. So the yellow alignment that you see here was as Jane said, there was one point where they reached, this was the preferred alternative, the blue or the alternative alignments, I think that were identified as part of the Conway School. But the yellow was ultimately selected as the preferred to drill down in.
So, Matt, if we're trying to eliminate alternatives, can we, to make it less confusing to people, as Scott and so many other people have identified, can we get rid of some of those purple? Should we keep, how does the committee feel about that? Is, because it comes down Wilson Street, that was one.
Yeah, so I'll touch it. So segment 4 on the map is the center trail, and that's already constructed. So that's that on the bottom map here. Hopefully you can see my hand kind of cruising along there. So that's already constructed. And then the Main Street project starts, it starts at Wood Street, just to the south of this, but then there's a separated bike lane that's going to run along up to the Common. And as you know, that's under construction right now. That should be substantially completed, pretty much completed by the end of this year. So you will have this connection going from the loop road at the schools, like Jane had indicated, coming over and then going up Main Street and then ending at the Common. So the question, I guess, tonight would be to talk about these bluish purple other alignments, which are sketched in based off of the Conway School. And some of the right of way for this alt C1 alignment right here, which comes almost like across from Center Trail. I think it's offset a little bit, but it comes through. This was the old railroad corridor, and it traverses up. And you can see, I mean, the railroad, as we found, as we've kind of dove into this, it was disbanded or given to the property owners. So the right of way is not existent. And so the green dash, these green areas are properties owned by the town already. And then this purple hatching right here, if the pinkish purple, are private properties. And so this alignment here, the C1 would go up following the old corridor, the rail corridor, and would continue up. And you can kind of see how in some parts it's still kind of defined through here. So that was all C1. And again, I don't think the Conway School called them alt C1, C2. I think we just called them that, and for the lack of better, trying to identify them in discussion purposes. The other option we looked at was coming down Mayhew Street and coming straight across, and then realizing that this is town property, equal. And then at this point, Jane, you might have to help me here. One of these follow the
old abandoned, yeah.
So I think is it this way to the transmission line? I can't remember. I think.
Eventually, it
Yeah.
takes us out back to the Fecto property.
Yep.
And at one point, we looked at crossing Route 85 to get back over to Hopkinton State Park. But then that was before the Main Street corridor. And when the Main Street corridor came along and we were able to negotiate a path that way, those became obsolete. And silly. So I guess the question for tonight is, do we take them off so that we can have less confusion for people? Because we're not going to use those. We're not going to go down Mayhew Street. We're not going to go through the cemetery any longer. But Ken, you've been here. What are your feelings on clarifying the map? I mean, because that seems to be a big concern for folks.
All in favor of taking those off the map, and especially I don't like the fact that they are in a more prominent color than.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too.
Well, good. If we get rid of the blue and the purple from there, then we can put it on.
But I still argue that yellow is too weak of a color for the actual route that we're expecting to develop. And I would favor that being either red or blue,
Okay.
something that would stand out over the map.
Anyone else have an opinion on that? Eli?
I think the Conway route are interesting for historical reasons, but they don't play a part in our current thinking, and I think they should be eliminated.
Okay, thank you. Sin, do you have?
I'd like to see them as part of the record somewhere if we could get good dates. I think somewhere it would be at some point in time valuable to see the changes over time, the thinking over time. But for this purpose, for this map, for our public outreach, I do not think it's helpful. And I agree, we need different color lines.
Scott,
Generally, I am in favor of abs. I'm just wondering if all C1 doesn't at least provide the public an option to not, from the International Marathon Museum or 26.2, to not have to go all the way down there and down Main Street corridor to accomplish connection to the center trail. It just provides an option. I mean, everything else, all the other tributaries, I'm in favor of cleaning up, but I kind of suggest that we might want to leave that as a future option. So at least people can see that there's potentially one alternative to not have to loop all the way up and come all the way down Main Street. You can actually come from that part of town and come back through Center Trail.
I guess I'm not understanding. So
It's like an offer.
Oh, I think I have really bad eyes, so I actually can't see that well on the screen.
You're
But,
doing pretty well.
But I think it's.
Yeah,
is it
so
all
where is
C1,
your-
right? No, sorry, it's not C1. It all
C2 to the,
upper, yeah, no, it's two, all C2.
that goes to
Yeah.
the Marathon.
Yeah, the one that
Museum.
comes through.
This one right here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
isn't that our main route?
no. But isn't it one that crosses the purple striped, which is private properties?
I thought private property was not, so that's where, I didn't see the key in here.
Yeah. so
Yes,
oh,
private,
The purple
Right.
private, that's all
yeah,
either negotiated or takings or something, okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
Different story.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. And it's,
So every other alternative was going through private.
Yes.
yes,
Not really.
Didn't seem like,
Yeah.
I mean, there are
it's
bits
like
and
an
pieces.
interesting set of options. Okay, I don't have obviously that full history, so.
Bob,
I'm not sure why, but I like the idea of keeping the original rail bed on there. I guess that's alt C1. Just kind of a context, I guess. I do. That's how and other things that are on there that are truly not under consideration. I'm fine with getting them off of there.
so would it just be for a comparison then? Because, I mean, those go right through people's homes.
Yeah, I've always liked the idea of knowing where that railroad once was, I guess.
So maybe we could make it yellow?
Yeah, oh, sure, make it a different,
Make it
yeah.
one
make
that
it
goes through people's homes yellow and
Yellow.
that's making a note.
Yeah.
and make our main trail
You want to just,
yellow?
for all alignments for historic purposes, just
Short,
Yeah, but I think to,
define the railroad corridor as a whole, because, most trails nowadays, well, years ago, trails were built on old rail beds, but now all the rail beds have been used up. So in Hopkinton's case, the rail beds have been either disbanded or given to property owners. Not many are intact. The ones that are intact, I think some fall within town's properties. Some of these rail beds are not raised. They're sunken down as they are down through
right,
through the school property area, which now they're wetlands, streams, and other, they pose other
Sure.
challenges. So if you're looking to like identify it as a historic to kind of set the tone and say, because I think your biggest challenge here is that you don't have a railroad corridor in town where you can build something. So you're building a path going in the middle of the woods, and I can tell you that everybody has this problem with trying to identify an alignment because it's not clear cut. And it's not easy to make it a line along through the woods for sure. Or whether it's property or just wetland impacts or, the structural needs and things like that. So
that brings up an interesting point. If just now that other folks have brought it up, if we indicated the original rail bed in yellow for historical purposes, for contrast, that'd be something people would be interested in pointing out and then eliminating the others.
5 minutes to this segment,
Okay.
if you want to stay on it.
All right, we're gonna whip it out.
We just haven't heard from Jamie.
No, okay, so Jamie,
Shut me up.
or Eric, no, thank you for.
Or Eric.
Did you want to go to Eric?
Eric, do you have something to add or do you want to let Jamie go first?
Jamie, go first.
Yeah, I think that we would be looking at a liability question if we leave routes on that go through private homes. I thought Bob was about to say the idea of hiking people's homes.
That's interesting.
So I think that we would want to make sure that we're noting that on anything that's public information, that this is private, like make it really clear. That would be my only concern about leaving trails through private homes.
No, I think that's a valid point. I think because a lot of people have gotten angst because
Yeah.
we're showing lines and, hey, you're going through my
I
house.
think that's right through the doll hospital
Yeah.
Cheapers.
So
Where's that?
on 85, the corner of 85 and C.
Yeah, and that's exactly where it is.
Yeah.
It goes right through her yard. So we may want to come back to that and revisit it. I think that we brought up a lot of good points tonight. And
Eric?
Eric, do you have something to add?
I certainly do. First of all, I agree with Bob and Ken. In Bob's case, I think that we should highlight where the rail trail is, big time. Because the Board of Selectmen at the time challenged us to put a rail trail through Hopkinton. Impossible if you look at where the rail went. And then they complicated it by making us go across town to the center trail, which really was not the best way to get to Ashland. And I think that the people need to know that big time, why we do what we do. The second thing, I agree with Ken, is all this peripheral things. The Conway School thing was very nice with a bunch of nice kids in college, but it really, in my opinion, had very little to do with how to make our project work. It gave us some information we didn't have, but I want to take everything off of this map that is not one of our two alternatives and focus this committee back to working on two alternatives to how we make this our charge work.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. Tim, I know you're all new to this, but do you have any fresh eyes on this that you'd like to share with us?
I think it makes a ton of sense to have a working map that shows people what we're really working on currently. I think it makes a little bit of sense to have an historical. Here's a lot of the things that we've looked, because a lot of times you as a board, you're going to get second guessed. Well, why didn't you think of using the rail bed that's already there? Like, and people are like, we spent 10 years trying to do that.
Yeah.
But they don't know that because they just moved to town or they just turned the TV on to this particular issue. So I think it's worth trying to preserve that work. And you know what, it's all on the public record. I'm sure we have preserved this. So I'm not worried about it really being lost. I would, in theory, stick it on a layer and produce a map sometime to say all the alternate routes we've ever considered in case you wonder why we went through your yard.
Yeah, that's a great,
But I also decluttering this map so that we can go out to public and say, this is the map we're working on. Stop talking about what happened,
great.
you know, a long time ago.
Well, I think we're all on the same page. Matt, do you have enough to work with us on that and come back with cleaned up version on this? And have something ready to go for the cent.
So it sounds like,
Jamie didn't weigh in, did you?
No, I did.
Oh, yeah, okay, enough.
so it sounds like all C1, C2 and C2A are basically coming off these three coming off here.
Yep.
Can I make an additional comment?
Sure.
I don't really like the quaint green boxes there. I think that what they're delineating is important, but given that people are, you know, the most of the public here knows about lakes in town, and those aren't lakes, and people are probably going to try to orient themselves.
The wetlands, yeah.
Yeah. So if there's a way to make them less dark green than that, because it, you know, again, I think the color is deceiving and it makes people think that. Well, I think it's going to make people think for everything.
Let's let that thought and back.
I mean, I think it's pretty dark because there's a blue underneath it, but I turn off it and go with it'd be a light green. But I think it's important to show the wet, because those are just the wetlands that are documented through DEP's website. So those are the first, you have to navigate around those rather than going through. But,
Jamie,
Would it be possible to make them dots?
well, so then there's dots already for the properties that are owned by the town. And so that's,
I thought they were all hash marks.
these are, and then
Right.
then there's also a hatch because there was some other public land owned by Milford by the Echo Lake. And so when you have a big map and you have multiple things going on, you kind of run out of colors.
Through the chair.
yes,
Yeah.
Scott,
Yeah, so I think we all agree that we emphasize the option that we're really considering. Emphasize things that are important, but not the focal point. So there's probably, I know on geo maps and things like that, there's denotations for wetlands and things like that. So I'm sure Matt, as the
I
pro,
think
can
Matt
find some
can
way
have
to
some
differentiate
help.
that. How related is
So the one
to
thing is it important to show the property ownership? Like, because I started highlighting in purple the property that's
Yes.
not owned.
well,
I think
it
to-
threw me off, so. Yes.
by private properties.
Yeah,
Yeah, make it clear that that's why we're not taking this route.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, so though I would continue to highlight the private property that is still under our current route, but the private property that's under these other routes doesn't need to be purpley delineated.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, if
If we're
we're taking
eliminating-
something off, we don't need to, because everything isn't purple.
So I think it's still perfectly reasonable to, for example, highlight the present property and private.
The different,
That it is, but just.
the reason why the colors are what they are is map originally started with an aerial underneath it. And once you introduce an aerial to it, then games will go back to the aerial.
Okay.
So if you start changing colors now, you gotta stick to a LiDAR like this, because once I'm turning, you're gonna be like, what happened to that? That color over an aerial, but, so that kind of went into where we got to now. I mean, I'm happy to change some of it and we could screen back the aerial to be lighter, but we can do a lot of different things. There's a lot, this map, I agree, we can,
Try and simplify it. I think is what the committee is, what I'm hearing from the committee.
so I'm hearing the three alignments, C1, C2, those three kind of strings going up, taking those off, which then removes a lot of those purple
Yep.
hafting.
Yes.
That cleans that up. And there are a couple different line types for this, which is kind of like flooded area versus wetlands. So maybe they both have the same purpose. They overlap, which makes them dark, but
That's all right. I think
I
we
can
can,
I can turn the wetlands one on and see if there's a different dash dotted wetland.
and then the other thing that I think I heard from the committee members is to make the yellow, which is our most prominent,
blue.
and to
Yeah,
make it a blue or
Yeah.
purple.
Yeah, that's.
All right. Okay, so, and then we're also going to try and, I don't know if this is possible now, but section we're going to tackle after we talk about this is the center segment, which goes from East Main Street, both sides of 135 up to the center trail. Isn't, that's correct, that's the center.
First, I guess before, so we haven't talked about, I mean, is this alt C3 staying, or we're just gonna take that off and then one line that's gonna go? Cause I heard Eric say 2 alignments, but now we really only have one. And it's gonna be the one that's gonna go, it's gonna be the yellow one that's gonna essentially turn blue and go down Main Street and go to Center Trail and then come out the Center Trail. So this is gonna be the one alignment that's gonna be shown here, and then it's gonna jump through the center school, right? Go around here, and then if you can see my cursor.
Yeah, that's one option. And then the other option is coming right up 135 using the sidewalk.
Okay, I just making sure I'm turning off so I'm gonna turn off all C3 too. I don't think we talked about C3
We did not.
at all, right? Or did?
No.
C3 is blue, but it's the extension that goes up to the Legacy Farms Trail, which is the all D1 and D2. It was already constructed. So I think that's an 8-foot path, shared use path, that stops somewhere near the Ashland line, and it goes all the way down through their development. That's
Yeah, that's already there.
why we were showing alt C3 was another, it was the and I'm lagging here, sorry. The Conway School, alt 3, this was extended up because it would make a connection to that. So I'm asking.
It's another option. But
Well,
we-
so I'm asking if that should come out.
No, I think that should stay.
I think that should stay.
That's gonna say, okay,
That's a viable option.
It is a viable option.
Okay.
For one, it's supposedly town-owned property, except for that, there's still a legal battle over it, but.
so would that be yellow? Would that be yellow?
Buying it.
It's not private property.
Well, I don't, if,
It
you
is.
think we consider it private?
Contested, I'm not.
Oh, it's still private.
Oh, I know
Still
that.
private, but it does, just because we can't get it this year, doesn't mean that we can't get it 3-5 years down the road.
You're gonna have it 5 years from now. It was more,
But it is I think it's a valuable option that
It is.
that we would love to get our hands on. It may not happen, so we have to.
And it is.
It's all privately open, yeah.
Aside to that, the railbed, but the railbed, we supposedly tried, right?
No, it's in the property dispute between the property owners.
But didn't the town,
Did, but we could not, they neither prove a clear time.
anyway,
Do you have clear direction? I think we should probably move on. We have a big agenda here.
I do. And I guess the question is in anticipation for the next discussion to the south, do you want me to change the colors for that, or do you want to just start with, yeah?
Yeah, make it consistent.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on. So this is a discussion for the committee, because this is going to be, I feel, in my opinion, I don't know about anybody else, but it is coming up for town meeting, and people are going to ask how this committee feels about it. So the committee should discuss it. Do the committee members support or not support the citizens petition submitted by Mr. Lagoy and 23 other citizens? And of course, the summary for the first one is to continue to be, and this is just a summary. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Just to continue to be under the control and direction of the select board, or to be under the control and the selection of the Upper Charles Trail Committee subcommittee members by the TCMC. It's a little confusing, but I think we all get the gist of it. And the second petition is to withhold further funding to further explore the Hayden Row segment. That's commonly called segment 7. So we can take these one at a time, and we can start by going around the table. And Jamie, would you like to start off? I start off. Oh,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Quick question before.
Yeah, that's a
Have we
tough
been
spot.
asked by the select board to comment on these, or will we stand up at, will anyone?
well, that's the thing, the next thing that we're going to talk about. Number 6, we are going to discuss our annual town meeting presentation.
Okay.
But you're spot on.
Okay.
Well, that's the next one. And we could take one or the other, but this just happens to be first. So Jamie does not,
I've only been on the committee for less than a year. I'd be happy to wait until the longer serving members have had a say.
okay, so, sure, we'll go around the table, we'll come back. Bob?
Can I suggest that we start with the second one?
Yeah, I
What do
don't
you
have. Do you want that? I mean, I have no preference. I put them down there because I heard Peter say that if one fails, 2 will go second, and that's why he put it in that order.
All right, well, then,
So I don't,
let me start with number 2. I'm opposed to number 2 because we have no other route but that to consider. So I don't think it makes sense to throw that away.
I don't think I quite agree, but it's not my turn.
Sure. Well, I think I would shock the world if I said I was in favor of continuing to explore Hayden Row. So I'll just confirm that I'm still, I still think it's not appealing as, this marathoner, exerciser, walker, young child, as well as, I don't think it's safe. So I think everybody knows my stance on that. So, and then in terms of the committee itself, that item, I don't think we should be telling the public what they should do about our committee. I feel like we should leave it up to them to decide. So I don't, I don't think we should be, I think the community at large has had exposure to the committee and us, and either we stand on the merits of what we've done, or folks will tell us things need to change. So
I do agree with you, but I think the real question is, do people want this committee to continue to be under the direction of the select board, or would you rather see us shift over to the TCMC?
my understanding is that the TCMC is under the direction of select board as well. So I
But
don't think
this,
that's
yeah, and I think correct me
mutually
if I'm
exclusive.
wrong. No, the point is, the way it's written is that this would be disbanded, our little committee here. Then the TCMC as a whole would create a subcommittee. They would create it, not the select board. They would pick their own members, not the select board.
From the members that, this is more of a question, but my understanding is the members of the TCMC are appointed by the select board. So therefore, the members that are appointed to the committee under the TCMC would also be appointed by the select board to be members of the TCMC. So
Sure,
I thought the TCMC were appointments.
they are
Yeah.
appointments, but the way
So all
I
members
read
of
it,
TCMC
was
are
that-
appointees.
people would apply to the TCMC to be part of their subcommittee. I do not know.
I'm not sure.
That
I don't know.
was-
Yeah, I don't know.
The
But
next
again,
step is to
I
be-
just say, I think it's got to be it's on the observations, opinions and merits of what the committee's done versus TCMC. And I think we should,
No, I think-
I'm challenged to try to dictate to the community because I think we have to listen to the community. You know, my stance on listening to
Yeah,
the committee. So
Mhm.
however they vote,
Oh, I agree with you.
I'm in favor however the community votes.
Jane, reading from the warrant, it says the subcommittee shall be comprised of 7 members chosen by the Trails Committee.
Mhm. I think that states itself, but
All of which would be members of the TCMC, though, is my understanding.
But the TCMC, we would have to apply to the TCMC.
Correct. Yep.
mhm, yeah.
Yep. Correct.
And they would pick us.
Correct.
And I don't know how that would work.
So-
Okay, so, so the question is, do you want to be under the control of the TCMC? Because the subcommittee would then report to the TCMC. Or do you want to be under the control of the select board?
Jane, do I get a chance to weigh in?
Yep,
Correct.
but not right, I mean,
I'm all set. No, I made my comment. I was just. gonna be
Okay.
repetitive, yeah.
okay, Eric.
But well said, Scott, thanks.
Am I the last guy?
No,
Then
go ahead.
I have to tell you, when I came aboard, we had a thing that was beyond fixing because we had no railbed. And I'll go to the next one. I've lost it. Go ahead.
Okay. Sin,
What happened to him? He just disappeared or lost volume or something?
I don't know. He's coming back, I'm sure.
Okay, you just kind of rephrase what the question is, I think, in terms of how I was thinking of it. And if I understand how you just stated that, Jane, it was how would this committee feel if it were under the tutelage of TCMC? I think that's the way you stated that. And I think I'd like to look at it a bit more broadly than, would I want to work for Chevy or would I want to work for Ford? Neither, by the way. But for me, I think it's that you have a body of work and a history of work and a body of people that have learned the process. And I think this is this issue is a lot more about the process. How do you get from point A to B than who you're reporting to or which individual is in charge. So in my mind, it's about a process that has been ongoing, that when we took our public meeting, our senior center thing, and we got tremendous amount of feedback on that Hayden Row piece, we really took that to heart as to how do we make a trail that's going to be safe, for everybody. I'm kind of going off the track a little bit, but for me, it's about the process of filing for grants, doing grant proposals, understanding finances, working with town departments. And I think there's such a good base for that. I would hate to see that kind of flushed away, and then to reinvent the wheel. What I would much rather see is cooperation and coordination, because PCMC and the trails that exist here in town are equally important. They provide something that a lot of people, myself included, really use and need. 5 days a week, I'm on some trail or other in our town. And the two are not separate forevermore with the Berlin Wall. That's just a terrible way that I think residents are now looking at things. And this is an ideal opportunity to work more together. And we're dying to, we're pedaling fast to try to get the public input, how to become trustworthy in the eyes of the public. And what I would like to see is that this body continues as is under the direct control of the select board. And I would really like to have the select board say that a member from this committee must be on TCMC and a member from TCMC and not the same, that there be a crossover person, I think could be very helpful, so that we really are over time speaking more the same language, because the disconnect at this time feels insurmountable, but it's not. It's not. It's about, folding people into the process, which is grueling at times. It's grueling. So thank you.
Thank you.
We still have time.
Eli.
I'm opposed to both petitions, and I plan to speak at the town meeting on our plan and how to address safety issues.
Okay, thank you. Ken.
With regards to the second one, if I had my way with any petition of that sort, I would have worded it slightly differently to say that that I'm not in favor of us considering at this time and spending at this time more money to go down Hayden Row. But, for the future beyond, so what I think is this committee ought to focus on other routes, other options on the south side of town. And I do believe there are some, but they're not great ones. And I think we should focus on nonetheless fleshing out what possibilities there are. And I think we should spend the bulk of our attention and money on the north part of town where we've got a better chance for success. With regards to the first one, I'm not really in favor of that. I kind of think it's overreach to propose this sort of thing that we should be subservient to TCMC. I will say that my biggest disappointment with this committee has been, and this is, I don't know whose fault it is. It's just plain the way things have worked out. I had hoped that we would have had some sort of lower level trail accessible to the public in the regions where we do control the land, even if those trails weren't going to be the permanent position of the Upper Charles Trail, which requires a higher level of engineering. So I would have been, I don't know how to have accomplished it, but it would have been, I think, a lot better had we had a walking trail in the sections where we can walk. So, one place we can walk, and I've talked about this before, is between Hughes and Granite Street, and we still don't have a walking trail there, even though that's supposed to be where we're gonna go. And it's just also true for Legacy North, where we haven't got anything marked on ground that the public can look at. So, those are my points, and they don't really coincide much with the first petition. So,
Okay, well, thank you. Good points. Tim?
So so on the second one first, I guess, switch in that order. I don't have a lot I won't make, I'm trying to have an open mind about that one, because I gotta understand that one a lot better about how much money we actually have and whether we're really spending it anyway. Obviously, we don't want to give up the most important section that we need to connect the Milford to make it a useful trail. So I don't want to give up forever that, but if we said, hey, let's spend the next year focusing further north, because sometimes accomplishing something is better than accomplishing the most important thing. I know at work, sometimes they say, pick a couple tasks you can accomplish and get them done and you'll get momentum. So I feel like that approach could be good. Again, I don't want to give up on any way through to Milford that'll work. And then on the first one, so I would suggest that we don't always get great direction and or support from, saying we've been hosed in the past by that crazy select board. No, the select board doesn't always provide us much direction or help or oversight. And so it's possible that through their connection to the trails, the TCMC, that the TCMC could give us more help and support. It does seem a bit more like politics going on, in that they would force us to all get fired and then get rehired and stuff. So that part sounds less exciting to me, but it could be good. I do know that there's lots of people who are very experienced in getting abutters at least communicated to and getting the word out, getting things actually built, writing grants. So there are definitely some expertise on that board that would no doubt complement our experience. And like I say, our experience again, as if I've been a huge part of this, but the lessons learned by this board over as long as we've been here can't be lost, should not be lost. But so I don't know how aggressive TCMC wants to be about reforming the relationship. If it's simply, hey, let's help you by putting you under us, then that could be good. If it's, hey, let's just change you because we want to, that might not be so helpful. So I don't know. Again, I will abstain from both questions, as they're big fundamental questions that I don't really have.
Okay, well, thank you for your feedback. So just a couple of things that I would like to offer. First of all, the charge, to the select board's defense a little bit, they have given us clear direction with a charge, and that is to build, engineer, design, and construct a trail from Milford to Hopkinton. That's clear, kind of black and white. The TCMC's charge is very different, and that they're supposed to coordinate all types of trail groups in town and oversee management. They don't do engineering, construction, and designing and building. So that's just not their thing. We have, for many, many years, applied for the grants, written the grants, done the design, done some construction. And we are just not there yet where we're ready to build out, because we have to, according to DOT and all kinds of other regulations, we have to have a complete trail plan with multiple variations and options that have to go before them for analysis, for wetlands delineations and things like that. And that's what we were working on so hard for most of last year, is to get that to the point where we could get there. That's when things became heated because there was an uproar about, there was an identified route, that a possible route go down Hayden Road. The reason that became so hot is because years ago, back in 18 and 19, we were the first ones to identify using the Western alternative route. We wanted to go down. Of course, we want a safe path. We wanted to get, who doesn't want to go in the woods? Going down Hayden Road was never our first choice. We ran into major obstacles in the Western alternative that at the time we could not surmount. One was property acquisition, another one was wetlands delineations, and the third one was the neighbors were not supportive of that at all. Does that mean we cannot go back and revisit it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But because we were, and that was on our plan, that was on the list, that was on the plan that we were going to submit to the DOT for analysis. We also identified the Hayden Row piece. And that's when the proverbial baloney hit the fan, because people did not want that. And I don't think it was clearly understood that we had already looked at the Western alternative. Fast forward, this past January or February, the Trails Club and Mr. Lagoy applied to CPC for funding to engineer that Western alternative that we could not get through. I hope with all of my heart that CPC passes that at town meeting, so that they can then take that money and do the job. I am hoping beyond hope that they can do that and find a safer way around from the Center Trail Loop Road all the way down to the Hughes. That is where our heart was originally. We just couldn't make it. We couldn't. And to get this, everyone says, why isn't the trail made? Why isn't it built? Because we have to go through this process. We have to submit this whole, from Hopkinton to Milford, we have to submit that before we can go forward and make more progress. So there is an awful lot of backstory here that folks are missing because there's been so much mudslinging, and that really saddens me because I think it was Ken or Sin or whatever. It is a process. It's financial responsibility, and the board has been oversight. Every year we get called into the board and we are asked to give them an update. They are aware, they are very aware of what we are doing. And I think they're more aware of what we're doing this year than ever before. And there is something to be said to letting the folks in Hopkinton decide what to do. But in all fairness, I don't think that people completely understand the whole situation. And to take this intricate work that we do and give it to a body who does not have the history, that does not have, what's the word I'm looking for? The history.
They just,
It's not
as
there.
a committee,
They would have
they
to
have a
start.
different purpose and
They
just
have a
kind of
different
work
purpose.
differently.
For instance, if you take the trails in town that we have that are, through the woods, and people just like to get out there. And this is what TCMC does. They take care of these trails and they do a wonderful job. I think they do a magnificent job. There's just about under 50 miles of trails in town. We're asking for 7 to 8. I don't think it's a lot. Yes.
Through the chair, thanks. I struggle with in one breath saying that the TCMC has a different purpose and different expertise, yet we had asked them to do the analysis and research on the western route, and
did.
your work.
Excuse me, we did not ask them. They volunteered. Peter volunteered that. He got the Trails group together. They got together and applied to TCMC, to the CPC. We did not ask
Sorry,
them.
Jane, well, 2
When
meetings
we-
ago,
when-
sorry, go ahead.
When we heard that they did that, we 100% supported them. We would really like this to happen.
I was at the meeting when Eli and Eric, who are on our subcommittee for the Western Alternative, said they'd already met with Peter and
Discuss it.
TCMC a couple times to discuss it. And the recommendation was to ask them, basically to delegate to them the analysis and research. I was at that meeting.
Jane,
So that's where I struggle.
May I
So,
say something?
Well, I was.
no, I'm done. Thank you.
That's okay, but I was at the CPC meeting when Mr. Lagoy came with the Trails Club and asked for that money. I had
Which-
never heard
which
it.
was a month or 6 weeks after, well,
Eric,
First of all, the meetings we had no outcome. They were exploratory. Come back to us with facts. Never happened. I'll talk when you're done. But Scott, what you're saying is not right.
it's an opinion. I'm just stating what I experienced at the meeting, Eric. I'm not,
that's okay. We can have a difference of opinion and still be respectful. And I think this is an important, it's a hard conversation for everybody. And I really appreciate everybody discussing it in a respectful manner. And this is how we're going to make progress. But Mr. Lagoy and the Trails Club did approach CPC. Before that, there was never really any formal conversation about them applying for the funding so that they could do the engineering. And Muriel Kramer.
I'll agree. I'll agree with that. No, I agree with that. Yeah.
Suggested that idea. And I personally thanked her.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, Shane and Eric and
For doing
team.
that.
Yeah,
Well, I
didn't
think it's
say
been an
anything about that.
evolution,
Yeah.
and I don't think any one person can take credit or not credit. We are trying to work together. Ken,
I'd just like to say that the TCMC may not have any expertise in building trails, but Peter Lagoy does, separately really from the TCMC, and has built, and played a big part in building the Center Trail and the Hughes Trail and the Echo Trail. So it's not like there's no expertise over there. It is a different expertise than the expertise on this committee, however.
I know, but I don't think we should be basing our thought process on personality, because we should be looking at the charges of the committees.
Yes, and through you,
Because
Jane.
people will move and disappear and go away and have other
But through
interests.
you, Jane, I don't think it's a comparison. If that comment, Ken, comes from what I said, that's not quite how I meant it. The function of TCMC that I see is very different from the function
Fundamentally.
of this committee. Not that one has less or more experience.
That's why-
Please don't think that that's what I meant. That's all.
I agree with that.
Have we beat this today? Jamie, do you want to jump in?
Thanks.
Yeah.
So as far as Article 48, at the planning board meeting 1 week ago, it was reviewed that the pedestrian connectivity study.
Yeah.
There was a lot of public feedback
Mhm.
that the sidewalks on 85 don't feel safe.
Mhm.
And so I think and I agree. I would not feel safe walking with my children on 85.
No, I agree.
And so I very much dislike that segment. I think it's unsafe. I think it's irresponsible. I am also very concerned that we're hearing, oh, no, we're interested in looking at other routes, but we have a member sitting right here who just said there's no other route. So I'm concerned by
I'm
that.
saying at this moment, there is no other route. Am I wrong or right about that?
is he?
Well, I, I think
Jamie.
to be fair,
Yeah.
we have to give,
Aligned.
we have to give Mr. LaGoy and the Trails Club an opportunity to take that money and find an alternate route on the western side. I really
know,
hope
in your
that
heart,
that
yeah.
happens.
I hope too. I really do. I really wish that.
Yeah. Yeah, wishes, yeah. So,
Oh, Jamie, that wasn't very
oh,
nice.
it wasn't very nice the way that you're talking about this either.
No, girls and boys, I really need everybody to try and be respectful.
Okay,
This is
that
a
would be great.
hard.
So
too.
it's not hard. So the structure of a subcommittee is because things then become under that committee. And you have said multiple times that the Upper Charles Trail will be under TCMC. I haven't formed an opinion yet on whether I think that Upper Charles should be a subcommittee of TCMC. But I think that the structure of it, just like the Elmwood School Building Committee being under the school committee, makes sense. I understand that structure. That's not confusing to me. I don't think that's at cross purposes. The school committee doesn't build schools. But the school committee liaison or has a liaison on the Elmwood School Building Committee. So I understand the proposed structure is based off of that. I'm very concerned about the plan on Hayden Row.
I know, we're gonna, something we have to work through. And I would just hope, and then the other thing that I would like everybody to keep in mind is feeding off of your thought with the schools, is that this town is about to embark on building another school on Hayden Row. They picked the site. I think we have to let the townspeople have this much larger discussion that is really beyond any trails group. They're going to have to look at safety, how to make that, improve the road structure, make it wider, make it narrow. All of those things have to come into play because of this tremendous amount of volume that is now going to come on Hayden Row. This is a much bigger, larger conversation that the townsfolk have to have. And I think, I really appreciate everybody, hanging in there, and this is a tough conversation. But I almost want to say that I would encourage everybody just to take a step back and let the town do its work and maybe revisit it in a while. I don't understand what
Can
the
I,
housing is.
Can I
Yeah,
just, I guess, offer clarification? I was giving a simple up or down, which is what
you were.
you asked for.
That's a hard.
I, like everyone that I've heard, would be in favor of the so-called Western route, and like you, Jane, would love to see that happen. There is no Western route established at this point. So what I meant when I said we have no other route is exactly that. And furthermore, then, it made no sense to me to declare that we were discarding the only route that we had that would get us from downtown Hopkinton to Milford. Because we didn't like it. I don't mind researching alternatives as we've discussed, but I don't see any point in declaring that we're gonna throw that option out the window, because it may come down to that's the only way to get an Upper Charles Trail from the Milford Trailhead to downtown Hopkinton. And if that were the case, I would definitely support the Hayden Row alternative. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay, two more and then we're gonna wrap it up. Jamie?
My misunderstanding then is that I don't see how Hayden Row is more of a route than any other. We don't have a route there. There isn't a route, just like there isn't a route anywhere else.
Right, it's a line on a piece of paper.
So I think that's why I'm like, well, no, it's like they're the same right now.
That's what planning and design is. Okay, Eli, one last thought.
Eric and I met with Peter on the Westland Alternative, and then I met with him a second time. He was very generous with his time. I think there are some real problems with it in terms of acquiring some land and making, and the wetlands issues. But the biggest problem, in my opinion, is the bridge over Route 85. The bridge, it proposes entirely in Milford, and Peter has not been in contact with the Milford local government. He's talked to a distinguished citizen of Milford who I respect and who has been retired for several years. But it's unclear to me whether Milford will ever approve of a bridge that Hopkinton proposes on their land.
I think that's the south segment. Sorry, right?
Yeah.
That would be the south segment. Yes, that's a, yeah.
Yeah, but excuse me, I think it is a separate challenge. However, I believe the way Peter worded his language with the Trails Club and for the CPC was that at least he said it to CPC, that he would include the bridge in his analysis. And that he had $5,000. That's why he wasn't adding $5,000 more.
Okay.
Since then, I know, since then, there's been more progress. And so I really want to thank everybody. This has not been easy for a lot of folks. And we'll move on, but I would really like to see everybody just take a step back and see, give Peter a chance to do what he wants to do. That brings us to our next topic, which is
No.
discussion.
No one
Oh.
has asked. I've had
I'm
my
sorry.
hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
I have been the historical part of this. First of all, when this all started, there was no UCTC. All of the 100+ miles of trails were completely not managed. We were the first trails committee in town. And we were new and did things, but Peter came to our meetings. And on 2 different occasions, I begged him to join our committee, and he declined. The UCTC was the effort of our committee to the Board of Selectmen or Select Board to create that committee. And they did, because we wanted all of the other trails in town covered. We also had them do it so that the 2 committees would never interact. Upper Charles was in charge of Upper Charles, and UCTC was in charge of the others. That's not hard to understand. The only thing I'm trying to say is, don't make a committee that has no establishment in charge of the committee that created it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that moves us on,
Can I correct that?
well,
That was inaccurate.
just, can you keep it brief?
Yeah, so
Okay.
TCMC was formed in 2018 when the Hughes Trail went in behind my neighborhood. And there were a lot of people who were upset that there wasn't conversation with abutters. We went to the select board, we presented our concerns, and they said, we have an idea. We're going to make a trail coordination and management committee. And if you would like to have a say in this, you can come join the committee. And so I volunteered to be on the committee. And part of the major work that TCMC did initially was working on contacting abutters, talking to the community and getting feedback.
Do you remember that that was me who did that on that committee? That I'm the one that did all that public outreach and stuff? I was on it. I did that. That was my work on the committee.
They're all right.
Yeah.
We're all right. But to Eric's point, no, there is a backstory to that. And people were coming to our committee meetings, wanting us to fix a trail, wanting us to fix Center Trail, wanting us to do this, wanting to do this. And that was not our charge. We approached the select board and gave them a draft on the establishment of a TCMC. Peter Lagoy was very active in that drafting of that work. And it was because of everybody getting together that document was created. So everybody is right. You came in afterward and had the benefit of, having that establishment. But, and it was good. I mean, a lot has happened. This town has done a lot with trails. The Trails Club, the TCMC, the Upper Charles Trail, and then with the planning board even getting involved with the surveys that we're doing. Everybody in town seems to want trails. I think that we can work this out. Okay, so having annual town meeting, Ken mentioned the last time I asked everybody to think about it. And folks said that they felt we should have a presentation at annual town meeting. Since then, and that was on the agenda that we were going to do that tonight. However, at the end of the last meeting, I also reached out to our town moderator and asked for specifically, I told everybody I would do this, guidelines, time, date limits, what are the parameters? When do we go forward? I never heard back from her. I don't know why. But then last week, I don't even think it was a week ago, I got an email from the town manager's office. And it was to all the chairpersons of all boards and committees asking to have their documentation in today, Monday. So I asked for an extension right away. I said, is there any possibility we could have an extension? Our committee has not had a chance to meet on this and discuss it. And they said it's really not recommended. They want everything in. However, so what I did was I got on my computer and I put together a little PowerPoint. So I would like to have the committee members, and not enough time to send it out electronically. I was just finishing this up last night at 10 o'clock. I have put together some verbiage, but it's rough. And if the committee members like this general idea of having a presentation after, I'm assuming it would go, does everyone have a copy? We would be asked to present after Mr. Lagoy, and let's see, this is being presented by the TCMC. So this particular petition is Mr. Lagoy and the TCMC.
I thought it was
Not the trails.
It's not
Trails was CPC.
Okay, thank you.
I thought it was a citizen's petition.
It's citizens petition. So
The citizens petition
Peter
is,
himself.
I know, Peter.
It was
Sorry,
TCMC.
You're right. It's Peter, Mr. Lagoy and 23 others, citizens.
Not
Not TCMC. Okay, thanks. No, thank you though, 'cause
Thank you. Okay, do I have reference to that somewhere? I want to make sure that this is accurate. Page 2,
About it. On the left. On the right,
on the right.
my left.
So TCM's, no, so it is,
So you're
The
just
main
saying the
challenge-
citizen's petition is saying that.
okay, so let's go through it one at a time. So this could be, if this is what the committee likes, you might want to just throw it out and do something different. I don't know. So I was just trying to get people to look at the big picture of trails in our community, and the Upper Charles Trail is currently under the oversight of the board. Of course, I wouldn't read this verbal. I would just, I would come up with a story. So I think that that's pretty clear. We have no contiguous rail bed, and our goal early on was to use as much town-owned property as possible. So the main challenge that we have doing this is building a rail trail, building a bike path without an existing rail bed. And the current is the location right now is developing the best option from the Milford Trail all the way up to the Center Trail Loop. I think everybody can agree that that's our biggest challenge. It's the southern route. So our main challenge is we did study the Western alternative. We recognized the three things that we mentioned before in the meeting, and to Tim's point, I think we have moved on. We are going to look at the northern route from Hopkinton State Park down to East Main Street. While the town considers the safety of Hayden Row school placement and road improvements. Now, the TCMC and the 23 citizens, it's the petitions. How do you want to?
Peter Lagoy, it's a
Peter
citizen's
Lagoy
petition,
citizen
not-
petition. Yep.
No.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
But did he go to, did TCMC go?
Yes,
No,
they-
no. He represented it as a citizen and got.
that was the original.
I'm not saying the right word.
No, what I think, I know what you're,
The CPC funding is to Peter Lagoya.
yes. The CPC,
The
no, it's to, the CPC funding would go to Mr. Lagoy and the Trails Group. However, why I put the Trails Club in here, the TCMC under this column, and it should be, is because he references
Mhm.
in the
Trails Club.
language that,
Because of the structure.
because of the structure. So how could,
That's fair.
I'm getting myself confused now.
No, that's fair. I think
Take a breath.
there's two issues. It's
There is,
when we, two things we just need to separate, right?
yes,
One thing is the Western alternative, the CPC funding, also, that's one bucket,
Mhm.
PCMC bucket, and we talked about that. The other one is the petition itself,
Right.
separate.
Which is.
I agree.
We keep those separate, we're clean.
Right.
I agree. I agree.
I'm Right. just making the point that the TCMC has definitely gone off. to get-
Is supposedly working with us to get funding to pursue investigation of the Western alternative.
so what should be
So in,
the,
Right.
under main challenge.
under main challenge, we've got. the
Main
youth
challenge
safety,
part
and then
2.
Could it be Mr. Lagoy and the 23 citizens? The highlight? I mean, we have to have something.
So I feel like this language is really inflammatory.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
I-
fun.
It's more the language. I don't think it's the header. I think we don't want to, I don't think it's fair to either
Mm.
position,
Mhm.
be it whether it's the Western Alternative or TCMC or us,
Mhm.
to aggressively put words or label
Then
the
help
other.
me, because people, if we're confused.
I think it's just is advocating. I mean,
Yeah.
that'd be one way.
All right,
You're advocating a Western alternative and has
And I feel like these regardless
is
is
seeking to
necessary.
research it.
Yes,
yes, so
So-
you just want to put Western alternative there?
Instead of insists, I think it's just, they're advocating for Western alternative as an option.
we don't want an us.
And then regardless of
them.
challenges,
We want that the main challenge is at this time is working out the Western alternative.
Mhm.
And in order to do that, we need a lot of cooperation. We need that coordination.
Neighborhood support for it as well.
Mhm.
It's never
Absolutely. Yes. Thanks, Ken.
Okay,
that.
So it's kind of one challenge that we're putting forth instead of saying it's a 2. It's a one big challenge. And that is to meet in the middle, is to be able to coordinate the
okay.
best route possible. And, we are waiting with bated breath, not wishing, Jamie, with bated breath.
Yeah, it felt very minimizing. That's why I was
Yeah.
responding that way.
I think it's just to be fair. I think.
A viable Western alternative.
No, you don't, I mean, that's going the other direction. I think that's swinging the pendulum the other direction. I think advocating for a Western alternative and conducting research and, you know, if you wanted to say on the UCTC side, that, we had previously ruled that out.
The year
I mean, yeah,
referencing when.
yeah. I mean, you'd say they previously ruled it out, but,
Mhm.
shows that the UCT,
Yes, I can't read
no,
that.
I'm not dictating. I'm actually.
No, no,
Yeah.
I'm just, but I'm
Concept.
captured the thoughts. Able to coordinate a Western alternative by conducting research that they hope to get from CPC? Would that be fair to say?
I don't think you need that
I
kind of
don't think you
specific.
even
I think
need
that's too
to.
much.
I
Okay,
don't think you even need to go that far, but I think we're all getting to the
Yeah, we're
same
getting there.
place here. If we just stick with it for 2 more minutes.
by gaining,
Well,
neighborhood
you know.
support.
What is the goal of this slide? I think is what I would like. If I can understand the goal of the slide, I think we can come up with a better slide.
Or of the whole presentation, right?
Yeah.
Maybe less paying attention to what the current status is.
So main challenge one, we're
All right,
trying to
so-
make a trail.
All right, so
Challenge
that's
two,
one.
Upper Charles examined the Western alternative in 2017 or 2014, whenever it was. I think a date is useful because we're talking about looking at
It
it again.
does. It
So
does.
things have changed. The town has grown significantly.
It does.
So Upper Charles examined the Western alternative year. Identified concerns with, and then I guess we can list the challenges.
Yes.
Consider
Recognize-
or considering Hayden Row, current situation in town, like that makes sense. And TCMC is investigating the Western alternative currently. Right, like we don't need,
And I'm not sure if it's a challenge. I think it's a current, I think Tim had might have meant something like this. It's kind of the current state or whatever. Those are two formal words, but
They're not there yet.
Seconds.
yeah,
change
Is that the status? Like, this is
Status,
data.
current state.
Main
Yeah.
challenge,
Current
right?
status.
The main challenge is trying to get a stupid trail through that spot.
Yep.
And
So we've got the main,
is that we stopped the one way because we couldn't get there
Mhm,
and started a new way and people didn't like it and someone else is looking at the other way.
mhm.
I think that
okay,
that kind of describes what happened
Yep.
over the last 5 years and you don't want to use my exact words because they weren't that great, but that kind of like, that's the kind of idea we want to leave people with, because I think that's fairly honest. to what
Okay.
happened. And people who are new in town or new to the idea, like you could have lived in town for 20 years and not know that story.
That's for sure. Yeah. Jane, main challenge, block number 1.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it main challenge. I would call it the vision.
No,
No.
a very specific portion of the trail.
Okay, sorry. What's that idea?
I thought to bring the trail from the Milford parking lot to.
Yeah.
Center Street.
Yeah.
Or to, not sorry.
Senator, yeah.
You all set on slide 2, Jane, for the most part, or?
yeah, maybe
Page 2?
somebody can help me.
Yeah, but
Page two.
so slide 4, we're saying like current status. I'm typing up an email and I can send that. And so under current status, we're saying Upper Charles Trail investigated.
The Western alternative.
A route called West, you know,
Mhm.
we're dubbing as or whatever Western alternative, because the public won't know what that necessarily means, but.
And we recognize
Here.
and currently focusing. Oops.
Identified barriers.
Would it help to identify this on the western side of Route 85? Between.
I think
two
that
points?
might be too much depending on
Okay.
what you're trying to get
Yeah,
to.
okay.
Do you want to put that, under the status is that, because we're mentioning the Western alternative, the other, option is the Hayden Row option on the table. I mean, do we want to put that under status? So, because why all of a sudden just bring up a Western alternative without having, what's an alternative to?
Other, yeah.
So when I tried to just
At least it
say,
gives context to the.
so what I just tried to summarize. Slide 3, main challenge, what's there? Slide 4, current status, UCTC investigated a route nicknamed Western Alternative in year, identified barriers, changed focus to Hayden Row, received community feedback with concerns. Town is now considering building a school in the area of the current school campuses.
Great.
do we want to say like it in the past year?
Yeah, that's accurate.
In the past year, TCMC pursued funding and is currently working with, no.
It's getting voted on a town meeting.
Mhm. Okay.
Seeks
Do we have to know
CPC funds
what article it is?
Excuse me?
would be nice.
If someone wants to flip through, I printed that out.
That's great.
It's under the
Okay.
CPC one. It's bundled underneath all of it.
It is. It's bundled seeking
Right, that was the-
CPC
I'll tell you what
funds.
letter it is, okay?
It would be kind of nice if we could just say C.
It looks like H.
Is that an article?
No, never mind. I'll get there in a second.
H is the sub.
No, no, we need to find this up, right?
The number is.
No, I got it. Yeah. See who's faster. You would. Actually, people on phone, Amy, Steve, you must know. Do you know the number and letter? On the,
Funding to investigate the Western alternative.
anybody in the crowd?
Under
CPC funds, yeah.
You can fill in the blank later. I've
Yeah,
got it
okay.
at home, but it's under the CPC article.
This one has some redlining.
They were all bulked in together.
It'll be rather early.
I agree.
Okay.
You want to read it back?
So current status, slide 4, Upper Charles Trail investigated a route nicknamed Western Alternative in year. Identified barriers, changed focus to Hayden Row, received community feedback with concerns. Town is now considering building a school in the area of the current school campuses. In the past year, TCMC is pursuing funding to investigate current status on the Western Alternative, current viability.
Perfect.
Great.
Everyone agree?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jamie.
great.
All right. So because the bridge is mentioned,
Where's the bridge mentioned?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need that.
I think we don't need it now.
Yeah, I don't know what the, yeah.
I like it. I do like it, Jane.
I think,
I think it has to be in there because
Discussion about the bridge, is that coming up soon?
I think the bridge has to be in there because you can't cross Hayden Row at grade at that point. It's too dangerous. So you need a bridge to cross it. And unless you cross Hayden Row at that point, you don't have a Western alternative.
to Eli's point, this is Peter's idea and
Yep.
it's included in the
Let him fight
the
that,
Western alternative.
but I guess
But if people are voting,
Would we then put the 3 crossing locations on Hayden Row as another picture of those? Would we
Yeah,
put we're not putting the 3 crossings at Hayden Row, we're putting a bridge. I don't know, it just feels like, I don't know, whatever, that's my 2 cents.
I mean, we
I'm
could,
trying to save face a little bit too for the committee, because I'm not sure it's just popping up there. And I think we want to be friendly. I don't think we want it to get ugly.
That's of the bridge is a separate problem. The southern part, south of Granite Street is a separate problem from this the stretch between really Hughes and the Loop Road area.
that's my understanding.
So I don't think there's any reason to talk about the bridge here because it's not anything that's coming up directly in any of these warrant items.
It is.
I certainly agree.
The bridge is an integral part of his plan.
It isn't.
But we said we voted,
And
we-
this,
we've made
not in the
statements that
center.
we support them doing the research, and yet we're throwing a dart in it.
It's not an integral part because you could consider, you could have the route go west of Charlesview, go down Hughes, go down to Granite Street, the way that everybody's agreed, and then go on the UCT path, going across,
You could, but that's not part of his current thinking.
It may not be, but it's a viable possibility. There's no reason, the 2 halves of the Western alternative don't need to go together. They just don't. Geographically, they don't.
am I correct in assuming that this presentation that we make at town meeting is intended to assist the voters to make the decisions they have to make at town meeting, with regard to the
What I was
matters
That's the-
that we are part of? And so that includes these two citizen petition items,
Yes.
and perhaps it includes the funding for the TCMC for the study. Those are all,
That's
are the-
Came out and stated we supported that though, so I think that would be a challenge to go to town meeting and say we don't support it.
well, that's
I
what,
think
no, I mean, that's what,
said
we
it's
may
part
want to
of it.
reiterate that we support.
Oh, okay,
But,
got it.
but don't we want to just confine our presentation to matters having to do with what the voters
Mhm.
are going to vote on? And so I agree with Kent, the bridge is sitting there as a, it's kind of the next elephant in the room, but it's not there now, so why bother with that?
Eli.
It's part of the plan. You can't execute the Western alternative without crossing Hayden Row in Milford. And you can't cross Hayden Row there without a bridge because it's too dangerous to cross that grade. So the bridge, the bridge is a serious part of the plan. You can't ignore it.
I think it's because the question is it, do we branch off on Echo Trail or stay on Granite? And so that's where the bridge may or may not be part of the conversation. And my understanding was that in this conversation about the center segment, like we all agree on the north, and then there's the center segment, and that does not include Echo versus,
But you have to cross Hayden Row.
yeah, somewhere. But so our plan, or the Hayden Row plan had multiple, but I think one near Cornell's, right? And so that would be if it was Granite cross versus Echo cross. Like I think of that as the south section.
I think we should go by the current thinking of the Peter LaGoy and the Western Alternative, and anything else is speculation. I don't think we have a right to change his planning.
Does it seem like we should be presenting his plan though? Like, I don't think that's our job. This feels petty to have a picture of a bridge when we're supposed to be presenting our perspective.
Well,
It's not to like point fingers at and criticize a
We're
bridge.
arguing that the Western Alternative should not be part of Jane's presentation.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry that it came across that way. I believe that the Western Alternative refers to either Hughes or Granite to what we determined the center section of the trail would be, which went Hughes to the Loop Road.
If I may, so I think, sort of processing all this and trying to help boil it down and move us forward to the next topic, but I think that, a picture in isolation, regardless of what it is going to be confusing. So I would propose, if I look at a left and a right on one slide, I think what the intent is, correct me, Jane, if this is wrong, is saying on the left would be, to Eli's point, a bridge crossing of Hayden Row is the current on the table Western Alternative that they're investigating. And the other is 3 crossings of Hayden Row on the other side. I mean, that would be the apples to
We could.
apples comparison
Point. we
for the
could put-
community to
we
think
could
of,
put-
because there's neither one of them, I think we all agree is very appealing necessarily.
do you-
I mean, we have to get more information,
That,
but
we could do that. I mean,
know.
to be fair, put the 3 crossings on the bridge.
I mean, it's sort of,
How's it
that's the
explained?
community trade-off we're asking them to.
Scott
trade off.
is right that if you don't have the bridge, you have multiple crossings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a trade-off we're presenting to the community, and we, again, I go back to my position, we need to let the community tell us and talk.
Okay, so we could have,
That is the trade-off currently available.
no, that sounds fair and reasonable, and I could try and get something up there.
Well,
to post.
right, but I don't know if that's what we want.
Yeah, yeah, right. I'm not sure either, but
Right, how does that help them make?
How,
well, it's the Hayden Row
decision?
investment or not.
Mm,
investment, and that's the hot topic button, and
Exactly,
if,
yeah.
and you're right, Scott, to your point. I
It's the
didn't think
one
about
thing.
that, but that's, you're accurate. Okay, so the current reality, town considering.
Did we decide if we're taking the picture out or keeping it in?
No, we're gonna put two, we're gonna put 3 crossings and a bridge.
Mhm.
Yeah, what it is, right? Just go 2 Christ.
And the title of the slide is here's the current trade-off or
Correct. To your point,
the ugly truth
the, and.
or
it's
ugly
the
reality.
for Charles
Nothing's the truth
Trail
yet,
Or
'cause
no
nothing's
other
done.
Charles Trail,
I mean, well, that's the other thing.
you know?
No trail, interesting. No trail or on the right side is a bridge or.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be on the same side of the ledger or the slide, I should say.
Okay.
Finance.
And under current to move, because we're way over on the
That's
timekeeper
okay.
today.
Current
Under
reality.
current reality, number 2 bullet, could, be the sentence with the side-by-side photos. Town needs to investigate that stuff to the, and describe the area
Yeah, I think
of
that
where
was
that is.
starting about, I think that was talking about the conversation of the school, but it sounds like, but Jamie moved it, oh, excuse me, to the other slide so we could thank you.
To Cindy's point, I think bullets 2 and 3 could be good qualifying bullet points on what our earlier discussion.
Mhm.
Because the public doesn't necessarily know that we're pending that, or maybe that goes 2 slides above.
Mhm.
The postponed work on the segment.
Yeah.
Bullet point goes 2 slides above. Not,
Okay, so move the current reality up and then move the pictures down.
So the pictures are the finale.
no, I'm saying the UCTC has voted to postpone work on the segment along Hayden Row until the completion of TCM study. Should go on the slide we
Slide
just
4.
talked about before, which is, I think.
The
you're calling
current
it
status slide?
Current status.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I gave them numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, good. And number 2 bullet, I'm suggesting be a qualifying statement with the 2 counterpoint photos. And I would add a little bit to it. I would say town will need to investigate and determine necessary safety, road engineering, traffic calming measures for high traffic areas. For safety in high traffic
Up
areas.
above.
Okay,
And you think that should go on the slide with the pictures?
slide 2 with the pictures, the town really needs to investigate. Okay, new
I know
slide.
those are page numbers, so there's 2 per. Okay.
So that's my suggestion. Because this is the, this
So
is
you
the
pull
big-
out this bullet point, leave the other
Yes.
3.
Yes,
Okay.
but actually Scott suggests that we bump the final bullet to under current status.
That would be helpful. I didn't, but I wish I was at the depth.
Sorry.
Wish I was at a depth, but that's a good one.
Continues to make progress on other. We're at
Scott
we're at the
said.
last one. Where do you want that to go
On
to?
slide 4.
Meet them with something good. We're making
Like a
progress.
positive?
The
Yeah.
bottom slide on page 2, AKA slide 4.
Okay, slide. There we go. Now we're talking the same language.
When you open PowerPoint, it'll tell you the slide numbers.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
You call one of us and we'll talk it
Yeah,
through. But this seems to be, we've spent so much time on this. It seems that we think this could be a good idea for town meeting presentation. And I think it's a good idea because it's so extremely simple. And in a way, it's a response that pulls Jane or any or all other committee members to the microphone, to say, this is just where we're at right now. And
okay. And just,
I
we
didn't
do
say
have
that
one
well.
more meeting before town meeting, but
Yeah.
unfortunately or fortunately, we have to get some paperwork in there. What I would like to jump to next is supporting documentation, handout for town meeting, the tables. Do you think that we need to have anything there? I'll just throw out some ideas, the Q and As, side-by-side comparisons for cost analysis that we've done. Let's see, what else have I written down? Things off of our webpage.
Maybe maps.
This one new draft,
Thank you.
no matter, I mean,
One.
previously Mr. Earler, but this one
Section
little
one.
thing could
Section one.
be, yeah. And of course, getting one thing to match with the other.
You don't
And
even
this-
have to fold this, Sim. I don't think. We could just leave it like this and have the map on
You
the other.
can, you can, but,
Yeah.
is this something that we would want to be colored differently?
No, I think it's
Master
fine.
can, on that map. But anyway,
Yeah, I think
something
this-
like this, like, okay, this is what they're talking about, focusing on now. This is how to
This
get
is-
in touch. This is how to add your feedback.
Okay, so that could
And
be
if it's
something.
not worth,
And this is
The
not the
paper?
full map, though. I don't know.
No, this is just segment one. It says this is the
where we're at.
from Hopkinton State Park, passing through Legacy Farms.
So should slide 6 on this where we don't have anything really left on it because it all got moved? Should slide 6 say, see the handout for the northernmost segment where we have made recent, or like a picture of the map, like this is the segment we're working on right now?
Oh, we could, I'll see what I can try and figure out tonight.
And have this electronically, just like send over?
yes, wonder where I got it.
Probably from the map,
Yes.
looks like, oh no, it's got different colors though.
Yeah. I don't
Well,
think
We
we
didn't even change the colors.
No, but it looked,
Q and
No, I
A.
say separate.
You want
Yeah.
yes or no? Q and A's from our website, yes or no?
I feel like we have a discussion pending on those.
yeah, too much,
Okay.
outstanding. I think.
Okay, I'm just throwing out ideas.
Okay, good.
Anything else that we,
The address of our website.
yeah,
Yes.
You wrote up a town report. That's the sort of thing that they need.
yep, the town report is in the annual,
Yeah,
yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
It's already there.
at this point in it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Reference the annual town report. Okay,
Through you, Jane.
yes.
Do you have to get up and stand up and do a report?
Yeah, so
always
I would-
avoided that, like the.
No,
plague.
but and they're going to limit me on time. I'll just stand up and I'll just be very brief, speak very generally, using the slides and just say, and it is what it is. I would think that, as with every town meeting article, people are free to get up, go to the mic, identify yourself, that you're a member of the committee, you're speaking as an individual, and feel free to chime in at annual town meeting, as other people will be doing as well. Okay, so I think we've got a handle on that.
I mean, I think you could use some help on this, because I mean, is there
Yeah, it has to
one
be done
amongst
tonight. I'll go home and,
my company from North Carolina
sure, yeah.
arrived as I was pulling out of the driveway on 2 wheels.
okay, so,
PowerPoint?
I think,
Good question.
the other thing,
She is
I
an
can
author.
put the Greenway off. I can do that till the next meeting. The only thing that I think we should really talk about is, the discussion, the invitation from the TCMC to participate in the Trails Group event. It's April 26th. And, I have to work that day, so I won't be able to participate, and I just need to know if anyone else would like to do that. Would you like to do that, Jamie?
Maybe there, my kids will join us.
Oh, that'd be cool. And the date is,
It's Wednesday, the 26th.
And it's at the library and they will provide tables and chairs. We have to bring a map. Oh, no, we will bring our own handout or whatever. Everyone got the list of recommendations that Linda Chouse put together. I think might be a pile here as well.
Yes, yes. We have that.
They want a tablecloth. I'm sure you've seen that.
That's another time for a thing.
But there is time to look on that, to plan that. Would anyone
Yes.
like to help Jamie with that?
I can help.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Trying to be there, so I'm gonna hope and know I can.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm gonna be there, but I represent multiple things.
Yeah.
All from,
You're gonna be bouncing from table to table to table.
right, but
So Jamie, let me know. I'll help prepare.
That would be
and-
great. I have one of the big maps left over from before. We do have time to pull stuff together.
We may use whiteout on that one after our earlier discussion, so.
Yeah. Well, I don't, so
Or if Matt can,
I have a banner that we could tape to the bottom of the, on the table that would go down.
okay,
Great. It's like that.
excuse me, through the chair.
Yeah.
Matt, do you think you can get that other version printed, released over to us electronically, maybe a week or so before the 26th, which I guess would be next week?
Yeah, I don't,
That'd be great. And we could, do we have a printer that we use?
you still want them in 3 segments or do you want it as one?
Or is that part of the?
One roll plan, 8 feet long,
Thank
and
you.
you lay it on top of the table.
Okay.
That works out well.
I think Dave said he had his printer fixed, or I can have it printed and mailed to you.
Okay.
This size?
Well, I can do I can make this 8 feet long, the whole thing, and just do the
you
whole.
don't want it bigger than the table.
Yeah, no, we don't, I don't think we
So
need.
the
8 feet.
table's only
I think
6.
that's-
Size you want it to be.
I think that size is
6 feet
probably
long.
enough.
What size you want it to be, and I'll print it.
Six.
That size is good.
Conceivably just this, but after you revise it,
Yeah.
Do you want to just use this segment?
Let's take that.
Okay.
I think
Let's
because
take
that's the, I think we're all aligned on that, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lump this one with the northerly one.
Yeah, that would be
Make
good.
This one, and then I'll take the other one, and so it's 2,
Mhm.
2 6-footers.
No, can you do them on one,
Or you're saying one hole for everything?
one long, then
Okay.
6 feet long?
Yeah, gotcha. Yep.
That sound
Applying some of
okay?
these changes to the whole map as a whole.
Yes.
that would be best. Show
If you need
big part.
to meet, pick it up or something, I can do that too.
I can print it, ship it right to you, it's easy, so.
Okay.
Or I can deliver it, I only live in Southborough, so.
Oh, okay.
That's only like 2 weeks away. And it's not enough time, giveaways are always a lovely thing. Number one, I don't know what our money would be, but I did have a thought.
We
They
do have a budget.
they make these little things this big, they're all Band-Aids, and thinking of outdoor related giveaways and, to have,
Oh, those little tick identifier cards are wonderful.
yes, oh, we can get them free from Board of Health.
Yeah, let's get a big stack.
They're really cool. Tick cards,
Those are wonderful.
tick cards. I'll get that. Those are great. Tick cards from Shaw. Because I don't think we could get, the little plastic holder with
I
Pepper
think we won't be able to get the holders, but
I
Amazon.
mean, with our name on it.
Cute Band-Aids that kids might
Yeah.
like that age.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah, for sure. And Oriental
they might
trading.
have. Amazon usually, I know it might
Might
be
send the wrong
negative.
message
My
about safe trails.
stickers.
Oh,
To say, yeah, go out on a trail and get banged up.
Up deadline, have a printed copy in your hand. I have that.
Oh, well, the event is the
But no.
26th.
Wednesday.
So it's a Wednesday, so maybe Monday.
What child,
Get it to them.
what child doesn't go home with a bang or a bag up the
Draft
street?
first, look at it,
Okay.
and then you can
All right.
say change this color or.
Yep.
Something that looks like weeds.
So would there be a budget for,
Yeah, we have money.
if you wanted to
Money.
buy
The treasurer, we have money.
50 or 75,
How much?
50 items?
You want to send a link to Jane and she can,
Yeah,
I'm gonna send you a couple of options, ideas.
okay.
And you can say yes.
Can you
And
copy Jamie because she
If
might.
we're
have
trying to
it.
get like kids,
Kids,
like something
kids,
simple,
you
like
really
a
can.
100-piece
Yes.
popper, like little pop things.
Yes.
That's $32 for 100.
yes,
That's the
yes.
kind of thing that my
And-
kids would be like,
and
ooh.
Exactly. The thing is, do you want an Oriental Trading Company? I'm not sure.
They take a little longer shipping wise.
Yeah,
We
but-
might be cutting up on the deadline.
Yeah. And is that an Amazon type?
Amazon is really,
But in any event, something like that is very nice. My notion with the Band-Aid things is it's got your logo, your company logo.
I don't
your
think we have
committee.
time for that.
Okay,
Is it a reimbursement thing?
Yeah,
Does it? Yeah, okay.
I don't mind, if you send me the link, I don't mind ordering them and then I'll just get reimbursed from Scott or
And
you
you
could do that,
definitely
but you have to be
do that.
aware that they won't reimburse for tax. So I usually
yeah.
set that up myself.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
mind doing
as a
that.
nonprofit. Okay, boy, burning the midnight oil.
How would you like to handle that?
I'm just emailing you the link right now.
Oh, you're so wonderful. That's good. All right, thank you. All right, does everyone agree that is seeing as it's late, there's Hop 101 at the high school gymnasium on the 6th. That's different. For a lot of different reasons. We can probably talk about that at our next meeting. Is that any objection to that?
No,
Just the reminder that the Know Your Vote is this week coming up, I think, or next week afterward. That's just a reminder. Liaison reports, anything? I don't have anything. I'm gonna put off the other one, the follow-up on the Metro West East Greenway. I'll put that off.
let's postpone minutes. Excuse me, Scott.
You want to postpone the minutes?
Through this year?
Yes.
I know we don't have time, but I have not received any emails for outreach from folks and updates. I've seen
That's
James.
the only one.
Maybe put it on next agenda, it'd be helpful. I know we have a lot of distractions. Granted,
Yes, you're right, we should.
but let's not, and it goes to Tim's
Mhm.
point, let's try to not take our eye off the ball. Try to move things forward, be great. So if anybody has had made any outreach at all,
Some of us
please
were,
email me.
some of us were in the Caribbean reading and swimming.
Okay.
And not contacting anybody.
Well, that's acceptable.
Okay, so we'll postpone the updates and the outreach as well. So our next, and we're going to postpone the reading of the minutes. Topics for future meetings. I think we've got a full agenda right here, but if you have anything else, let me know. Our date of our next meeting is April 19th. Wednesday at 6:30. Okay? And anything else before I take a motion to adjourn?
That is,
So on the subtly section that we have not discussed or
Yeah.
reviewed, should I make all the colors yellow, all the alignments yellow, all the color alignments blue, or should we just stick with the colors that have been presented at public today?
I don't think the public has that long a memory, so I don't think that should be a consideration. I'm not, I know it sounds sarcastic.
Or just.
Yeah, changing colors, I don't think would pose any
I'm gonna-
inconsistency challenges, but
Section, the way it is, yellow, blue, and then everything else will get changed with this and the fall through. It's the northerly and central that
That will
will
be
be changed
coordinated.
with the new blue that.
Mhm. Good. Anything else? Okay, I'll entertain the motion to adjourn.
motion adjourned.
So moved by Scott, second by Ken. All in favor? Aye.
Eric, do you need to take a?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We have to go back. Is Eric, you still out there? Oh, I think we lost Eric.
No, it's just start here.
Yeah, we lost Eric. So our motion,
Oh, I thought I was like, aye.
no,
Okay,
so
so
we are
we're-
officially adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
Time.
hanging in there.
25.
Oh, there he is. Oh, Eric. Oh, you're back. Okay.
I
Do a
vote.
roll call.
I do it.
I
Roll
vote
call
to
to adjourn.
I vote to adjourn.
Okay, Ken. So Eric did show up. So all in,
He was there all along.
vote to adjourn. Yes or no? Aye. Ken,
Yeah, to adjourn.
Eli,
Yes.
Sin,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jamie. Eric,
Yes.
He did.
Jane is a yes. Okay, so moved.
All right.
Thank you.
Big meeting. In a minute.
The 19th.
9.
Yep.
Which the
Thank you.
those for
Yep.
next time since we.
I'll take them all just so we can clean it up.
I'll take this. I'll take this stuff on.
Okay, what is all this? Oh, those are the directions. Exit.